Do you have to file a BOI report? There are 23 exemptions from the Corporate Transparency Act where you do not have to file this report. In order to cut back on financial crimes such as money laundering and tax evasion, the Corporate Transparency Act was filed to make it easier for the federal government to get to the bottom of who is actually in control of businesses such as LLCs, corporations, LLPs, different entities that are filed with the state. And so it would make sense that the state and federal governments would sync up the ownership and the registration of these entities since you do file with the state. But the piece of the beneficial ownership information report that is incredibly nuanced comes when an entity owns another entity, and then there's a person or a group of people who are influential and who benefit from the finances of that business. The government wants to see who the underlying individual is that's benefiting from that business. And so part of this Corporate Transparency Act and beneficial ownership information reporting is that there are 23 exemptions that are noted by this regulation. And unfortunately, single member LLCs are not exempt. And here is the list of the 23 exemptions. And so let's just go through them. And as you can see, it's not really centered on single member LLCs. And the reason a lot of these exemptions exist is because these entities are otherwise regulated in a way that the federal government can get to the bottom of who is making the decisions. And so exemption number 1 is a securities reporting issuer. That's anybody who has publicly traded stock, possibly publicly traded debt. Governmental authorities, it's not really under the purview of this particular Corporate Transparency Act. Banks, credit unions, depository institution holding companies, money service businesses, broker-dealers, securities exchange or clearance agencies, or other Exchange Act registered entities, those already are registered with the federal government. They don't need to register under this as well. Investment companies, venture capital, insurance companies, state licensed insurance providers, commodities exchanges, accounting firms, public utilities, financial market utilities, pooled investment vehicles, tax-exempt entities, entity assisting a tax-exempt entity, large operating companies, which there's a definition for that. I think it's revenue 5 million and up or over 20 employees, and subsidiaries of certain exempt entities and inactive entities. Now, inactive entities, there are guidelines around that. So if you're interested in that, I can make another video. But no, there are not exemptions for most single member LLCs, because I would argue that most single member LLCs aren't operating within these exemptions, except perhaps potentially if they are an inactive entity, in which case they're not really transacting business and they haven't for a while. If you want your business to be in the know for all things accounting and tax, head to the top of my page, download any of my free resources, and you'll be on my email list where I send out more detailed trainings and freebies as well.